The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Café. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast NH. This is a podcast designed by writers for writers on the journey to being published. Joined Mandra Biscornet.
It was so healthy and nutritious.
Deborah Monk.
Can we open each podcast with a dance number?
Shelly Devlin.
It was so full of inspiration and sparkles.
Every Tuesday morning live on YouTube. And make sure you subscribe to catch the podcast anytime on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, or your favorite podcast catcher. It's time to be inspired, feel empowered, and be well with the Writer's Block Podcast NH.
And welcome to the Writer's Block Podcast. I'm Mandra.
I'm Debbie.
And I'm Shelly.
And thank you for joining us at the Writer's Block, where our mission is to inspire, empower, and to help people be well. We have a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about two types of writers, the plotters versus the pantsers.
I was wondering how you were going to define that.
So there's some debate as to whether it's pantsers, pantsters, which is especially funny. But we're going to be sort of defining each, talking about the advantages of each, and maybe helping you figure out which one you are. So I'm going to pass it over to Shelly to tell us a little bit more about plotters versus pantsers.
Pants on the ground, pants on the ground.
Now see, I like the pantster.
This is going to be a fun show.
Google knows all, and when I started to Google, it spells it 3 different ways. And I found it spelled 2 different ways in the same article. So I'm going to go with pantster because I just think that's hysterical.
That's funnier.
2 different ways of writing. A pantster, simply put, these authors are who don't work to a set plan or an outline. Instead, they might have a notebook full of scribbled ideas and character musings, and they might have an idea for an opening character, and maybe they know how their story will end, but some of the notes will even be a thrilling scene, and it could be all over the place.
And they only wear pantsuits while they're writing. That's
Let's not get political now.
Or do they not wear pants? Like, which is it?
I'm going to go with they don't wear pants.
Okay.
Or maybe they help people with the sliding down of their pants. That could happen too.
See, I knew it would just go dun-dun all over the place, right, with pantster?
Yep.
Many people publish their books in both ways. Some of them, articles that I read saying that the pantster takes a little bit longer to do a completion, which kind of makes sense versus the plotter.
Well, they keep having to pull their pants back up.
Right.
True. I mean, they're busy. They're preoccupied with the pants situation. So the plotter, on the other hand, will spend a long time planning, preparing, researching, organizing their plot, their scenes, their characters, and everything is, sometimes they use actual programs. This article says they use Excel or mind maps to plan the sequence of events. So that's really plotting out the entire story, which brings me back to school with outlines and, what goes first? The Roman numeral, the letters, the numbers. How does that all work? So again, it says that those are just the 2 ways that are out there saying, And
I don't think one or the other is right or wrong.
That's what they said. Not one or the other. You just might fall into a category.
Which one would I be? I start off by completely vomiting onto the page, multiple chapter after chapter, and then when I get all the stuff out that I think I need, I turn it into an outline, and then I write the actual copy.
Ooh.
I'd call you bipolar.
Am I a tweener?
You're a hybrid.
Yeah, right? Because that's a little of both.
I'm not going to lie, ladies. I get that a lot.
God.
You're right. I think I ran across that as a planster. You're a little bit of this and a little bit of planning, a little bit of plotting.
I like it.
But I think the key is neither one is right or wrong.
No.
You could do it either way. There are some advantages to one or the other.
And I think you naturally lean one way or the other. Doesn't mean you can't get strengths and attributes of the other, but I think naturally you're just going to want to be one thing or the other.
Mm-hmm. But wouldn't it symbolize your life anyways, how you run your life?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So true.
It's kind of like
I'm a hybrid too.
Yeah, it's a little bit like a writing personality temperament.
Yes. And it's going to just like, you can't lie on the dance floor. I don't think you can lie in writing.
Right.
I think you reveal a lot about yourself.
Depending on
in
which.
how you do it.
Yeah, I agree.
Was it Marie Force, an episode that has not aired yet, that told us about the sticky notes?
No,
That was
Marcy.
Marcy,
That
okay,
was
so
that was very much plotting.
That's plotting if you
Correct.
have the different color
Yeah.
notes and you're, okay, this goes here, this goes here.
Yep, and she had the outline, the sort of like the whiteboards or something
Yeah.
set up with all the Post-it notes. That would be definitely plotting.
Right.
Even though it's not really putting it in any specific order, you're just kind of putting ideas in one spot versus the other.
You
Yeah,
can
true.
move them a little, but it tends to, you're usually, putting things in
You're
a
still
place.
building a structure.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So and some of the advantages of being a plotter is that some say that it sort of helps you avoid writer's block because you have that clearer direction, so you know kind of where you're heading, and that some plotters tend to get their novels finished more quickly, which is what you were saying.
Right. That's exactly what I've read too.
With that direction. And some famous plotters are JK Rowling and John Grisham. So those are writers that tend to use the planning method. For the pantsers, and pantsers, they feel like sort of the flying by the seat of their pants is a little bit less writing by numbers or painting by numbers, and they don't feel constrained. They allow the story to dictate, and a lot of them say that the story knows better where it wants to go, so they kind of let that just happen organically, naturally. They feel like they have more freedom and flexibility, especially when it comes to making a change with a character. If you don't have a plan for that character and you need to kill them off, then
It can just go.
so be it. Just write a bridge into the scene or something, and off they go. Some famous pantsers are Stephen King and Margret Atwood, so they tend to write in that direction. And we are fortunate enough to have a tried and true pantster sitting here with us right on our panel. So I'm going to pass it over to Deb to tell us more about her experience as a pantser.
Yes, that would be me. I am a full-blooded, through-and-through pantster. I love the idea of plotting. I admire people who can plot, but for me, writing is an exploratory journey. I'm a right by the seat of my pants kind of girl. Really, it's more of a right by the seat of my soul. When I was finishing my last novel, which will be out very soon, Well-Behaved Woman Coming Undone, I was driving home from work one night. It was late. It was a dark and stormy night. No, for real,
There
girls.
she goes,
It
off
was
on a tangent. Pantster.
Exactly. It really was raining, but I saw the setting of the last scene in my mind so distinctly. It was as clear to me as the trees on the side of the road. So then I knew I was working toward that. But when I actually was getting to the point of writing the end, I'll tell you, it played out so much better than I could have ever imagined. Because there was another character that was so completely integral to that scene that I didn't even know would be there. So I feel like I almost can't take credit for a lot of my writing. On that novel, I'd be writing in the morning, and my daughter would come downstairs, and I would quickly wipe my eyes. But she knows me so well, and she would say, "You were crying, weren't you?" And that would just turn the waterworks back on, and I would say, "But Sophie, you can't believe what just happened," because it feels so real. Those are the magic moments that make the writing and all the wondering and the being lost worth it. Writing, for me, this way feels like a gift. It feels like an honor, a collaboration with a higher source of creativity. Mm-hmm. I feel like I get to swim in a well of magic and potential ideas. And for me, trusting this process is the key. It's the price of admittance to this magical world of creativity. So I feel like I sell being a pantster pretty well.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it sounds like an out-of-body experience almost
But
with
any
no
point-
pants.
At any point, do you find that you need to make some alterations to the storyline in order to make some of the stuff work?
Yes, a lot of times I have to go back.
In a way, aren't you kind of 20% plotter, 80% pantser?
Not really, because so when I discover in my first novel, Searching for Julia Stone, I didn't realize that she had a secret, or that she hadn't told anybody. And as the writer,
All you had to do was ask me. I would have told you.
I didn't know it either. So when I wrote that scene and she's revealing the secret, I had to go back to make sure and kind of thread through some extra scenes.
Sure.
To make that really believable and work. But that's called a pantster who has to fix herself, adjust herself, put a belt on.
Belt or suspenders.
I
yes.
like put a belt
Ooh.
on. I like that.
Yeah. So that's been my experience as a pantster. And girls, what would you say you are?
Now listen, I think that I'm definitely a pantster until I give you the updates on my project.
Okay.
Now I'm starting to turn slight plotter.
See,
so I
that-
think like Jonathan, like I probably am still like
A hybrid.
70-30.
Well, yeah, I need that just creative time to just let it go on the page.
Sure.
But I'm not that person can't be satisfied complete. Like my writing can't be satisfied until I also get some structure and organization to it. So I find I go back and forth between the days depending on how tired I am, how creative I feel.
Right.
Sometimes I could just vomit it on the page.
Sure.
Other times I gotta organize stuff.
Well, and there's another thing too, is that I spoke with you guys last night when we were chatting, is that I think that there might be a difference if
With
you're writing
fiction,
fiction or you're writing
nonfiction.
memoir. Because if you're writing fiction, you're creating the story. The memoir, you've lived it and are continuing to live it, which gets the chapters all intertwined.
So which are
wouldn't
you
it be
saying?
easy? I think it would be easier if you were writing fiction to be a plotter, because you're going to plot the story. You're going to write the story about a woman who falls in love with the police chief and steals diamonds, and like you've got a vision, so you can plot it out. But a memoir, you've lived it, so you're too emotionally attached to it. And when do you tell it? Do you tell it now, looking back, or do you tell it when you when you were born? Like, how does that go? It seems like it's a little bit more all over the place.
Whether it's fiction or nonfiction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't.
It's a really interesting question, and I
is.
don't know how many people. We'll have to do a little research on this. How many people are actually doing both? It seems off the top of my head, I'm thinking of the writers that I know. They're either fiction writers or they're nonfiction or memoir writers. So that's a great question.
And when you write a memoir, most people write one. There's only a few that have written a sequel to their one.
Yeah,
Unless
who
you're
would do
dead.
that?
You
It's
divide
not
it
my
up.
fault.
No, that's our fault.
Well, how many lives would you like me to live?
Right.
Well,
We're still living.
Right.
Well, that could be. That's a great. Let's save that for a show. Actually, let's do a little research on that.
I want to know, Mandra, what do you consider yourself?
Yeah, we haven't.
I would say I'm a plotter.
Yeah, I'm
I
going to
would
vote for that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would do some planning. In fact, the one time Deb actually had to give me an exercise of just write, like just a stream of consciousness writing. Just
Freedom.
Don't plan, freedom, do it. And so that's how I can practice doing it the other way. But I think my nature is to plot and plan.
And how did that make you feel?
Which thing? The stream of consciousness
The stream
writing?
of consciousness.
Oh, that's a great question.
I thought it was going to be a whole lot of vomit with not any golden nuggets in
Sustenance?
there.
Yeah. But it was better than
It was
you thought.
better than I thought.
Yeah.
So that was, a good experience, but it's not something
that you're
that I do all the
naturally
time.
inclined,
That I'm
right.
naturally right.
And that's why I think Mandra and I are a good balance for each other.
Right.
I never thought that I was artistic until the 6th grade. I had a great art teacher who...
So you never thought for 10 years before that? After that, for the next 30, you thought you were creative? So basically,
Let
for
me
most
finish
of your
this.
Hold on.
I'm shutting off your microphone.
Muting
young lady.
Deb.
What
Muting
happened?
Deb.
What
So,
happened in 6th grade?
In the 6th
Jonathan?
grade, this teacher, Marie, ended up showing me how to turn off the analytical side of my brain and tap into the creative side. And she did it by making me not look at the picture not look at the picture I was drawing, but only look at the subject.
Okay.
So that was one exercise that allowed me to look with my eyes and not try to evaluate what I was doing with my brain. Right?
So it freed up the...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how much of this process, whether you're a plotter or a pantser, is really us trying to trick ourselves out of the analytical side to analyze what it is that we're writing and to be able to trick ourselves and get into or get past that and get into the creative part. Is that why you do what you do, Mandra, as an example?
I think for me, so I've taught dance for many years, and I had this sort of analogy that when I first started teaching dance, I would outline my choreography. So I would kind of know, okay, I want to start here, this will happen in the middle, and this will sort of happen in the end. And so it was all written down in a notebook, all the steps were written down. The more experience, now I just listen to the music, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's going to happen there. And then I just go. So I've gotten more as a pantser, as far as that goes, with experience. And so I wonder if with more writing experience, I'll sort of loosen up the plotting, planning part and do more of the kind of fly by the seat of your pants part. I think for me, part of it is just feeling like you're doing it right or safe, and that the more comfortable I feel with either, choreographing a dance or writing a book, then the more I'll be allowed to kind of let myself go. So that'll be interesting to see if it can change over time.
Right, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Boy, I think we've thought
have
of
5 shows
multiple
out of that.
shows. Yeah.
But because we haven't done this in a while, let's move on to project updates and see where everybody is at with the books they're working on. Shell, do you want to start us off?
So as the chair turns, a turning moment here.
Oh.
From driving around in my truck listening to Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And I just...
While we're at it, let's say, hey, Elizabeth, if you'd like to come on the show...
Please?
Yes, please.
Please, please, please.
Love to have you.
Oh, my God, would that be amazing?
Yeah.
Seriously, I would cancel any trip I was traveling to just do that.
I
would be
know.
like, sorry, cannot be the hairdresser today. Need to be the writer.
When I was in Bali, I went to the healer that she went to. Now, he has since died, but I literally have a picture of me sitting exactly where Elizabeth Gilbert sat.
In Eat, Pray, Love?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. I've been meaning. Sorry.
So listening to her book while I'm riding around my truck, she had spoke of one time where there was a deadline for a book, and she invited her friends. She did not invite them. She paid them. I'm not going to pay my friends yet, though. She
We'll do it for free.
paid her friends, and she basically had a writer's retreat with her being the project. So the deadline's coming. She sat with her friends, and she spoke, and they all wrote. And then she grabbed all those papers and she went behind a door and she typed it out. And then she came back and they ripped it apart again. And so she was able to get this deadline sooner because they were basically researching the character, but she was the character, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So the turn in my project update is that I have a poster board that has Post-its all over it. It has the book jacket because I decided to just put my my mock-up book jacket on the top. It has Post-its with each chapter, and then there's other Post-its with the message that goes with that chapter. So it's kind of like
you're
you're moving it all around.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
turning into a little bit of a plotter.
Right.
Now, this roller coaster is tough because I feel so accomplished, but like within hours, I could feel like I'm just going to put it back in the drawer. And
But
take
roller
the table
coaster is
down.
tough. That is a great definite because whether you're a plotter or a pantster, the
Highs and
roller
lows
coaster
are
of
there.
writing, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So a little bit more
If
of
you
a
want the
plotter.
merry-go-round, don't become a writer.
Right?
Right.
No merry-go-round.
That's great,
I
though.
want the
That's a
roller
really
coaster. I want
good.
that.
That's a really
So
good
I
move
have
forward.
Friday, I have scheduled one friend who knows me inside and out, who Deb just met recently. And she is going to go through this poster board with me, and we're going to bang out a few more things.
Great.
And then I have my friend Deb, who's coaching me on next Monday.
Our Deb.
Our Deb. So, yeah,
Great,
a little bit
Shell.
more of a plotter.
All right.
Working
Yeah.
on it.
Good update.
Feels good.
Deb?
That's
Deb,
wonderful.
what do you got?
Well, let's see. I don't know if you remember on March 27th, our show, which was Secrets of the Writer's Block, my project update was that we had our writing meeting, and I had come asking for permission to put my memoir away, that I was completely stuck trying to weave the old with the new. Well, some of our listeners wrote in saying that I was giving our group too much power and that I should trust myself more. And I just wanted to follow up on that. I do trust myself, but this isn't about trusting myself. As a pantster, writing by the seat of my soul, I am so lost in the story, so immersed in what I'm writing, that I can't see the forest for the trees. I'm blinded by the dandelion flush. Oh, I said it wrong. I'm blind. I thought this line was so good. I'm blinded by the dandelion fluff wishes blowing on the wind. Oh. So I don't look to my group to tell me what I'm writing is good or not. I need my group, my very carefully trusted group, to tell me if I got the message across. Because, of course, the words aren't quite as beautiful on paper as they are in my head. But what I'm really asking my group is, did I get the essence of what I was trying to say onto the page? Because you guys liked the memoir the way it was, but I didn't. Mm-hmm. I knew I wasn't saying what I really needed to say as well as I could. So I went back to the drawing board, put my seat back in the chair. And I'm proud to say that last week, you girls, I gave you 25,000 words.
Yes.
A novella of a memoir, if you will, called The Pursuit of Passion. And I think I'm hopeful. Okay, if I'm honest, my pants are on fire waiting to hear back. But I think I finally said what I've been trying to say. And I feel like the emperor with the new clothes. In that story, he's walking around and everyone else knows he's naked and he's the only one who doesn't know he is. I feel just the opposite. I'm walking around exposed, raw, and vulnerable, just waiting because my baby, my story has been put into your hands. It's the reverse of the new clothes. I know I'm naked and no one else can see it. So that's how I'm feeling. Fortunately, we generally meet every 2 weeks.
Right.
Because of the way of our schedules, I only have to wait until
Thursday. And we are taking good care. Good care of that.
And Deb, in Big Magic, she tells you not to call it your baby.
Well, you know what, Elizabeth and I don't have to agree on everything.
Makes it
this
so
is my
hard.
baby.
It is your baby.
And Mandra, I do have a sticky note of what you're supposed to say on Thursday.
Oh,
so
I
if you would
can't
like
wait.
that, I could hand it to you.
No.
Believe me, I'll keep it tucked in the back of my book, and we'll see if you say it.
Or if I get the fireworks and the fingers
Yeah.
coming my
you
way.
get
Those are
the
my
thank you
Those
finger.
are thank yous. Yes.
Yes.
Anyway, what's your project update,
Just
Mandra?
a quick update for me. I'm still editing, but I'm about halfway through, which is great
Amazing.
progress. It's also still with a sort of medical editor. And then last Thursday, Brad was at a Donate Life event at Boston Children's Hospital and spent most of the day with someone from their media and marketing team, got her contact info, and I've reached out to this person in the marketing department at Boston Children's to figure out what I need to do in order to use their name in the book and so on and so forth. So I feel like I'm still moving in the right direction, getting all these kind of legalities out of the way.
It's the little train. I think I can. I think I can. One
Just
more
keeps
roll
rolling
of the
along.
wheel.
Yep.
Yep.
Not that anyone's asking, but I'm up to chapter 4 in mine.
At some
The
point,
end.
there has to be at the end.
Oh, that's wonderful, Jonathan. Keep plugging along.
Thanks.
Yes.
Yep. We
Girls
don't.
are so supportive.
Well, we did. We obviously encouraged. We obviously inspired you to write because before you were doing
I
this
don't
podcast,
know if we can take
I have
credit
been
for that.
I've
we're
been
taking
inspired.
credit.
I've been inspired to be well.
Great. Great. Oh, my gosh. Well, that leads me to sort of our walk around the neighborhood.
Yes.
So as you know, we don't have tons of time, so I'm going to kind of go a little quickly. But I did a Whole30 in March. And in talking with, it's funny. You talk with people and it comes up that, why are you not eating that? Why are you not eating that? And people seem the need to tell me why they can't do one. Oh, that's great. I'm so proud of you. I could never do that because. And the three biggest excuses that came my way were because it's too expensive, because I don't have time, or because I don't want to give up my alcohol. So.
have they heard of the Friends in Recovery podcast?
Well, that was my.
Get them set up real quick.
If you can't give up your alcohol for 30 days, have we got a podcast for you? And really what it comes down to is, the time thing, we all use that excuse when we just don't want to prioritize. Sometimes
Sure.
I don't
You
want
need to make the time.
You have to make the time. I don't have time to write. Well, I had to figure out a time to write and stop watching TV shows at night. People say that about exercise, so that can always be used as an excuse. Get a crock pot down, have a prep day, find your time. The expense thing, it doesn't all have to be organic. You can have a mix. It doesn't all have to be grass-fed beef. It doesn't all have to be, free-range eggs,
It's delicious
whatever.
when it is, though.
It is, and you will taste a difference if you do that. And what I always say is, look, at the end of the day, diabetes, heart disease, all these other things that are going to come your way if you don't take care of your body are a lot more expensive than buying a little bit better produce and meats. So I highly encourage people to just give it a try. It's 30 days, and then you can go back to your alcohol and your GMOs and anything else you wanna try. But let's dance on over to Debbie's Life Ponderings.
All right. Well, Jonathan has some pictures here, but on Pinterest, I saw this little stone piggy that I thought was the cutest little thing. Looking at her, I just heard the words, "You are my happy place." So I wanted to make it for you girls. This was just going to be one card, and that was all it was going to be. So I made her out of pebbles, and Jonathan has that as well. And she but then the pebbles were too heavy. They wouldn't stand the magnet. So the picture he has actually is I made pebbles out of polymer clay. But you can see I'm obviously clearly still a pantster because I wasn't happy with that either. So then do
we have gifts?
You do. So
love when we get
here
gifts.
you go.
I know. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just before I left for Bali, I made this little piggy, and I just loved her. So here goes, ladies. This card was made specifically for you too. But once I fall in love, I like to go further. So while I was away, new ideas kept coming to me. So I have a whole new line of cards.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
So for the next 6 to 8 weeks on Magnet Monday, you can see my newest magnet card on my Facebook page, Deborah Monk, and on Instagram at Deborah Monk Author.
Do you girls have any idea how difficult it is to be married to an overachiever?
You could ask my husband.
I was just going to say, you could ask my husband.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
We have no idea.
It's not easy.
We should do a show with Mr. Jonathan, the Brad, and Senor Josh.
yes, that
Senor
would be
Josh.
wonderful.
Yes, it would.
That would be hysterical.
We should
22 minutes of dick and fart jokes. Can you
Oh,
handle it?
I'll miss that day.
Oh, boy.
But we should do a show on rejection because the paper store, I think it's my 6th line of cards. Now, I will submit to them again, but I've been rejected 5 times. And in the writing world, you have to be able to take rejection. I seem to actually like it.
Well, you come from the dance world, and it can be a similar thing when you're, maybe not your dance world, but auditioning and whatnot, you get rejected all the time.
Sure.
From shows.
Sure. Same thing in this world.
Yeah.
Right. Just in everything. Right. So we should do a show on rejection. Anyway,
Yes,
Write that
rejection
down, Deb.
and
Let's go.
resilience.
We're rocking it on over?
Yes,
rock it on
to
over, Shell.
I'm telling
Inspiration
you,
Alley.
my inspiration is that I think I talked on one of the last shows on how sometimes I need to set the writing aside and read somebody else's because I need to fill up the inspiration tank. And I think that Mandra said that was research. So I was still working
That's
on
right.
my progress, right? And reading other books, but better than reading, get over it. And I've practiced. I didn't realize that our friend here, our new friend,
Yes.
changed her name. And I have been practicing so hard on how to pronounce her first name. I think she should, put a little pronunciation next to it.
How do you say it?
Say it, Deb. Could you say it?
Iyanla Van Zandt.
See?
Iyanla?
Doesn't-
Yep.
Right?
Van
See?
Zandt.
It makes your tongue just not want to say it, right?
Oh, no, my tongue
Right?
does. Iyanla, please come to the writer's block.
When we went and saw her in Boston, what I brought my very best friend, and only because I've known her longer, Deb.
That's okay.
And one of the first books she ever gave me.
Wait, but I was there too.
You were there. The
I
three of
brought
us
my
were
best
there.
friend. You forgot to say I
brought
was
my
there
best,
too.
I brought my 2 best friends.
I was
but
not there.
The full circle
You're invited.
for the inspiration with Michelle that I brought her was the first book she ever got given to me because she knew that I would write a book someday. Was called In the Meantime. And we had so much fun trying to decide where I was at that point in time in 1998 that she had given me that book. And then to see this woman in person was amazing. She did an exercise. There's so much to talk about. I could do an entire show on it.
We probably should.
But we did a breath work. She talks about, thought healing. And I put my mom right in there, like in that work that we did the day at the Schubert Theater.
That's funny.
And
My mom was in there too.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then my mom, who hasn't visited in a long time, hopefully she's listening to this podcast, came over for coffee. We're sitting in the Adirondack chairs on Saturday before the snow, looking out at the lake. And she was speaking of a few things that were making her crazy. I said, hey, Mom, if you want to read this book first, it's called Get Over It.
Wow.
And we had such an amazing, neutral, no heat conversation.
Right.
It was
Wow.
really, really incredible. All meant to be.
I think we should do a
And
whole
I-
show on that because I'd love to hear
And
from
listen,
you ladies.
And
what-
if she wants to be on our podcast.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. And the other thing I think we should mention is that here she is a writer, and she sold out the Schubert Theater.
She was a performance.
She was a total performance.
Which-
and she started her show basically sort of rapping to music, and all along I've been telling you girls, we need to sing and dance.
Good
Well,
God.
I'll dance.
Good
I don't
God,
know about
Deb.
any singing,
All right.
but
Well, when
I mean-
Iyanla comes on the show, I'll dance with her.
I'll dance if
right.
I can wear that outfit she was wearing in the second round.
I know.
Oh,
Yeah.
she had
beautiful.
wardrobe change.
Yeah.
She had a
Of
wardrobe
course, she's like
change.
a rock star. Writers
Yes.
are the new rock
Amazing.
star.
Yes.
The tickets were $90.
Okay.
Like,
We got this. We already talked
Yes.
about where we're going to do our performances.
Yes.
And which theaters we're going to sell out. We
Yeah.
already envisioned it. We manifested.
I can't wait for that meeting. We can discuss it on
Well,
Thursday.
her friend Michelle, who I've met very briefly, but I have a feeling she's going to somehow get involved with our group.
She is.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Gotta love that walk around the neighborhood.
Yep. We're gonna
quick.
leave it there, Shelly.
Yes,
Thank you
I
very
love it.
much. Thank you all for listening, and please check out the Writer's Block New Hampshire Facebook, and the Writer's Block podcast. May you be inspired, feel empowered, and be well.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Café, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.